All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready. But Baylee is amazing. She's one of the directors under Donna and the bus driver team. If you know anything about Baylee, she is so resilient. She's amazing. I love her social media. Her social media, like she knows how to rock the algorithm. Like it's forever in my face, and that's what you're supposed to do. But and she does the cutest pictures. Just everything is just so awesome about her social media. So I asked if she would come on and just share like her tips, tricks, anything that she felt on her heart to share with us tonight so that we can improve our social media presence with our virtual business. So Baylee, take it away.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So I do have a presentation. So
You can
I
share the
was
screen.
trying to figure out what to say and everything. So let me share this really quick. And then I figured at the end I could always share like a couple quick like Canva things if anyone wants to see. Because I do everything on Canva.
Yeah, me
So
too.
let me share. So I did a little bit about me to start, just so you know. So I've been with Pampered Chef since 2019. I'm a director since 2020. And I actually would use resilient as a good word because it's been a journey for sure. I live in Rhode Island with my boyfriend of 7.5 years, and then I have my two fur babies that I love so much. And my boyfriend and I actually met in culinary school, and I was an executive pastry chef. So that's an important piece of why I'm sharing that. Because for me, Pampered Chef allows me to work like quote unquote normal hours and still have a connection to food that I didn't have while I was in the restaurant industry. That was super stressful and so much. So for me, I wanted to share that because I really think it's important to find what you love in your business and share it authentically. There's been so many times that I feel like, is my screen sharing paused? Do you see the next slide?
I don't.
Okay, I just saw this little thing up top. It says your screen sharing is paused. I don't even know what that means. Can you see it now?
Um, well, we see your
It's,
Canva.
I see it. I see find what you love in your business and share it
Yeah.
authentically.
That's slide two,
okay, that's
three,
weird.
but
Every
yeah.
time I present it, it says it's paused. So anyway, I'm just gonna have to do it from here. So not as pretty, but that's okay. So those are my two little fur babies that I was talking about. Anyway, so I think it's important to find what you love in your business and share it authentically. There's been so many times in this business that I feel like I've kind of gone back to like everything I was told to do. And I'm not saying not to do what you're told to do because it definitely works, but having that outlet of figuring out like what you love and doing it kind of no matter what is what social media has honestly become for me. Because I think it's important too to find your goal with your business. So for me, it's making people comfortable in the kitchen and providing value to create a community around me. I've discovered that's like what fills my cup, what brings me so much joy. And so for me, social media kind of does that. So I'm not telling anybody to like only do social media and that the money making activities don't matter. It's totally needed and super important to stay in business. But for me, it's like that social media piece has just become like that extra leg that I really love. And I've been able to connect with my customers. So I kind of put together some of my like monthly tasks that I do and then weekly tasks to kind of keep me on track and consistent with it. That has kind of helped me actually get sales and stuff from it in the long term. So I figured I'd go through a monthly task first. So I kind of take 2 hours at the very beginning of the month once we have like all the monthly specials and things and kind of create my content then. And what that allows me to do is to kind of like time block myself so I'm a little more efficient. And then I have it to use all month long. So I kind of discovered, I feel like I've been doing it consistently for like a year. In the very beginning, I was kind of like every day in Canva creating stuff, and that takes a lot of time. And it might be like the last day or like 5 days left in the month and I'm creating something that I could have used all month long. And so for me, it's like the first day of the month, no matter what day it is, I'm taking 2 hours, no matter what my party schedule honestly looks like, to kind of create all of that stuff. And it takes me about 2 hours. So And again, although it's not a direct money making activity, I have found it keeps me on track because I do work full time. My boyfriend and I are on totally opposite schedules. So having that time with him is really important. And when I wasn't doing that and I was kind of like on the fly trying to come up with what I was going to post every day, it's like near impossible. Like you're not gonna do it. And then obviously the goal is to stay consistent with it too, because if you decide after this call for the next week you're going to do something consistently and then you stop doing it for a week or you stop doing it until like the new year or something, it's not successful. So definitely start at a pace that like makes sense for you, but do whatever you're doing or whatever you decide to do consistently, and that's kind of what's going to grow your business in social media. My next tip is planning out my parties, workshops, and seeing what challenges I'm going to have. So, for example, if I'm really like behind on booking parties or don't have enough for the month, that's going to be a huge focus of the content that I'm creating for that month. So, for example, like choose what product you would want 60% off and tell us below. That's not saying like, hey, come book a party with me, but it's something that's I'm ultimately going to book parties. So as a consultant, you're seeing that and know what that post is about. But customers don't necessarily. So that's one thing. If I don't have a lot of registrants for my workshops, that'll be a huge focus. Usually workshops, even if you have 200 people registered, you're still going to push it. But that's one piece. And then maybe if you're in a fairly good place, like this month I had like 18 parties booked by the first of the month. I'm really focusing more on the sales and the holiday sales, Black Friday sales, all of that stuff, and a little less on parties. So I kind of try to pepper everything in every single month, but the huge focuses are based around like what my business actually looks like. So use social media to fill those gaps. It's not going to fill your entire calendar, just social media, that's for sure. After a year of doing it, I maybe, get 2-3 parties from it or so. But for me, I'm building those relationships so that when I do reach out about a party, they're not like, who are you and what are you talking about? It's not a surprise. And then my third tip is to consider anything in your personal life, your full-time job, all of those things, and what challenges can you predict will come up, and also how can you build content. So I have a little screenshot of my Instagram right now. That's like a good combination of things I find. Again, I went to school for baking and pastries. So I started doing cakes when I was 10 years old. People have always known me as like the food person. So it is a lot of food anyway, but it shouldn't just be Pampered Chef because then you kind of become like a billboard of Pampered Chef. And I have found, at least for me, that was not successful. So it's a good combination of things, pictures of, my cousin, my sister, things like that, my dogs, not just like food. So I also consider things like date night, late night at work. I do work from home, but I don't always get lunchtime. Early mornings, like this morning, I had to be up at 6 for an event. So things like that, I like to consider so that I can kind of plan around it. My job, I cannot post during work hours. So I have to really use the time before and after smart, so that I'm not wasting any time in there. So considering all of that at a month has been really helpful for me to kind of like, again, just like predict some of that stuff and also build it into my social calendar as well. I also think it's important. My phone, I actually have to figure out what to do because I have too many pictures on it currently. But I take pictures of literally everything. Everything is content. I did it live on Facebook. I used a hand pie and pocket maker to make like pizza pockets. And I made 6 TikToks out of it. I went live and I took about like 6 pictures. So out of one thing that took me maybe 15 minutes, I have a ton of content right now. So I think that's really important because I remember when I first started doing it, I was like on a one of Claudia's trainings or something, and I'm like, I'm gonna make all this content and just post like in real time every day. I'm gonna make a video. We eat 3 times a day. That does not happen because you have those days that you don't want to do it, or you're like, I'm just gonna get takeout for dinner, or you're doing something that you really are like, I just don't want to share it. Whatever stuff comes up, life gets busy. So if you have things to pull from, it makes it a lot easier to stay consistent with it. And people don't notice. I'm telling you, they don't notice. I have this purple sweater in those 6 TikToks, and no one's going to notice that I did that. And then same thing with food pictures. Like, I actually posted this pizza picture the other day within the last month, and I took that picture last year, and no one knew that. So, unless you're sharing products that like no longer exist, people don't know. So that's my other suggestion is, take pictures all the time, because when you have that like kind of database, ultimately, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, I said I was going to post a picture of charcuterie today or something. You have something to pull from. So yeah, that's kind of what I do monthly, is try to look at all of those things. If you know about the personalities, I'm a green personality, so I overanalyze things ultimately. And so for me, I have to have a plan to move forward, or I don't do anything because I get like so anxious that I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I have to plan monthly and then weekly. So for some of you, that might be overwhelming, but maybe there's a couple tips you can still take from this. So weekly, this is actually my social calendar from a couple weeks ago that I took a picture of to show you. It's nothing fancy. I literally just like write it in this little book that I have. And so every Saturday or Sunday, my boyfriend has Sundays off and he works Saturdays. So I try to do it Saturday. I plan the week ahead. So every week I'm sending out a customer connection email. I'm going live 3 times a week. I'm doing an Instagram/Facebook post at least 5 times per week, a Facebook only post, which I'll explain in a second, twice a week, and then Instagram stories. I do at least 3 things a day. So you can see on here, I have to zoom in since this didn't work. That's okay. So, one thing is a TikTok and a reel, a quote. And then this day I did last day for stoneware, and then a throwback for Halloween something. I forget what it was at this point. But those were the things that I posted in my stories that day. I do try to share like real stuff going on, but again, because I can't post during the workday, I tend to do a little less of like sharing in real time, obviously after work, but I kind of map all of that out too. So again, it just helps keep me on track. So when I do have time to do it, I already know what I'm doing instead of thinking of the content that I can do during that time, if that makes sense. So I'm big on like time blocking to be like the most efficient. And so that's why I do this. This only takes me now probably like 5 to 10 minutes to do. And it saves me a lot of time during the week. So I can kind of like breeze through it when it's time. So I set a customer connection email versus in this case a project broadcast. So I have found for myself, you guys might feel differently, but I have found if I was to send out a weekly text, which I did try like in the beginning, a lot of people were unsubscribing. So I do a weekly email, and then I do a text message usually like once a month. Also, if you're using Project Broadcast, you're paying for all those texts. So I have found that when I'm sending the emails, I'm just duplicating the content that I'm putting on social media anyway, and using those same posts. So a lot of people that do read their emails are not, at least I have seen, are not super active on social media. So I feel like I hit enough people that it's worth it, and I'm using the same exact content. So if you didn't know, on the customer connection page, there's a little picture of a little icon of a picture that you can use to insert pictures. It has to be 500 by 500, but I can show you how to do that on Canva. But I don't do any extra work. I just literally copy in whatever post ultimately I want to use from my Facebook, copy and paste it into an email, change things if it doesn't make sense, like comment below that doesn't make sense, and send it. So for the Black Friday deals, the same day I posted that on social media or the next day, I sent it out on a customer connection email. So it's very quick, easy. I'm not really doing an extra step. I'm just making sure the content I'm using is really like going out. So this is why I find it valuable to take that time to create those Canva posts, because I'm using it everywhere. And I highly suggest, if you're doing that, especially if you're creating it, or just use marketing imagery, but especially if you're creating it, like, and taking that time, get it to everybody. And I have found that putting my face on here really helps. One, with the algorithm, two, with people responding to my emails. Up until this summer, I was really not using the picture feature in the emails, and I was getting zero response like every single time. I remember being on calls, people like, oh, I get sales when I send them out. I was like, I've never gotten a sale from this. And now Black Friday, I sent this out, or when we got those deals the other day, and I got like 3 or 4 orders. So worth it in my eyes. And ultimately that, in my opinion, pays for my time on Canva. So just a suggestion there, and how to use the customer connection email to do this. Also, this little icon is the hyperlink icon. So also when I'm sending out like my workshops and stuff, I'm using that button to hyperlink things so they can click right into the email to go to my workshops. I do all my workshops on Facebook Live just as an event. I have found that if I do them on Zoom, no one comes. So that's what I tend to do. But I can actually link it right in the email versus like give instructions on how to get there. So those are just those 2 buttons that I have found helpful to use. Live videos are my favorite part. I love going live. I think it's so much fun. My boyfriend is like used to me being like, hey, be quiet, because he's off 2 days during the week. And so he's used to me being like, hey, I'm going live, go in the other room, leave me alone. But I actually have gotten some really good like testimonials lately, people messaging me, and then a couple have actually posted it on my page saying how much they love my live videos because they're real. And honestly, they are. Like today, for example, I was making the pizza pockets and I forgot flour. So my biscuit dough totally stuck to the hand pie and pocket maker, but it makes you look relatable, you know? So I love going live. If you're not comfortable with it, I suggest still trying it. You know, everyone always says, you know, do it without your face, just do your hands. But if you like going live, totally do it. And I've also found the key to that in getting a following, quote unquote, on it is to do it consistently. So I don't really have a schedule that I can go live like Claudia, for example, she goes live every Friday. And I've watched them and she has so many people watching and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. But the way my schedule is, I really can't say like I can go live every single Monday or something like that. So what I do, because I have that social calendar, is by Sunday, I know what days I'm going to go live. So the first time I go live that week, I'm like, hey, I'll be back, you know, Wednesday and Friday this week for X, Y, and Z. So it gives people something to look forward to, as well as holds me accountable, because if I've already said it out loud, then I feel like I have to do it. So that's kind of what I've done to try to stay consistent with it. And same thing, the times like over the summer that, you know, I went live very sporadically, I didn't have a ton of people watching. But now I feel like there's quite a few people watching with a ton of comments. And then another tip, if you're going live anyway, share it into all of your parties. I find that super helpful. Just remember, they can't see the comments that you post in the party. So I always share my food in the comments afterwards. So it also gives people a reason to like come back to the video. And if you post it on your personal page, share that picture in that personal page comment, it doesn't necessarily share to all the parties. So keep that in mind. Somebody called me out on it the other day and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I should go through all the parties and add it. But just a tip there, again, if you're going live, do that anyway. And then there's actually, I couldn't screenshot the whole screen. I tried, but at the very top, there's 3 buttons. And so something I started doing was there's a way you can like copy the link. And so there were so many times I had told Donna actually, like, oh, I did a video last year on X, Y, and Z, but I go live so much or I post so much, I can't scroll all the way back. So I decided to create a doc for it. And so this recipe was pad thai. So I just put like pad thai and then the link to the live. And so now if in a party I want to use it, or somebody's like, hey, I'm interested in the pad thai mix, I'd be like, hey, actually I went live making it, here's a link to it. So I just found it valuable to save those in real time than having to scroll through and try to find it, which honestly I wasn't doing. So you can also use your live videos that way too. Instagram versus Facebook posts that I said I would explain. So for me, or Instagram, Facebook post versus just a Facebook only post. So for me, I found that my Instagram really cannot be salesy at all. And in that way, like even posts like this one don't do well at all. So if I'm talking about the air fryer, I'm sharing more of this picture versus this one. If I'm talking about the Black Friday deals, I tend to use like something like this versus this Black Friday one. I've just found it works better with the algorithm, and that's what my customer base on there likes to see. I feel like Instagram, I have a lot of opportunity with those people, like they're not current customers, or Facebook is current customers. So again, just something I've seen, and a tip, like if something's not working, maybe try this out and see how it does for you. And so when I say Facebook only post, I mean like those 1 through 50, comment your favorite product, things like that. I find do really well on Facebook, and on Instagram, I get absolutely nothing. So that's what I mean by Instagram and Facebook posts that I do like 5 times a week, and then the Facebook only post I try to do like twice a week. Something that's like more of like an engaging question, or something where you're using like those little backgrounds or something like that, versus Instagram, where I don't do that really at all. Oh, and it also gives people a reason to follow you in both places if you have like a little bit of a difference. But ultimately, they're pretty much the same. For Instagram stories, so I have like my 3 musts is like before I go to bed, I have to do these things. There's been a couple days that it hasn't happened in the last year, but not very many, where I have to do a TikTok, a quote, and then something favorite Jeff. So I feel like the quotes and the TikToks are such good talking points to my customers. And the quotes actually started from our retreat that we went on last year. And one of the other directors, Sarah, had shared this quote app that she was using. And I was like feeling like kind of depressed. And I was like, I just need something to like motivate me. And I think it's called motivational app. I think it's literally what it's called. Or it's called Motivation. And it's been really helpful for me. And so it actually like sends push notifications too at certain times of the day that I set it to. But not only am I sharing those quotes for like people on there, it's also for me. And so for me, posting it in the beginning was more of accountability. Like if I'm posting it, I will look at it, which I needed at the time. But now my customers actually look to them. They interact with it. Like, this is a great quote. Like, oh, I needed this, like different things that I think is super cool. And it shows, and for me, it's like actually providing some kind of value in like a different way. And then TikToks, for me, I feel like if I'm posting on TikTok daily, like I'm going to share that everywhere too, because why not? It's the same content. So I post it in my stories and in my reels on Facebook. And ironically enough, they do better. They get more views on Facebook most of the time than they do on TikTok. So I don't know why, but I just use that same content across the 3. And again, people don't really notice. I also feel that probably 95% of my Facebook people don't have TikTok, so they wouldn't see it anyway. So again, just using it in a couple different places. And then on Canva, you can actually resize pictures. So I use this a lot. Basically, every single Facebook post that I create, I make into a story. And it's actually really easy. If you click the resize button up here, You can change it to whatever you want. I'm not going to do it for this presentation, but what it does is it kind of reformats it. This one I realized once I resized it, the gold was like really in the stars and it looked funny. So I just changed it to black, but it's ultimately the same thing. I just like reformat it a little if needed. Sometimes I don't have to, it like does it fine enough for itself. So again, it's like 2 clicks of a button. And if I reformat anything, it takes me less than a minute. So I find it valuable to do that too, is resizing those things. To keep like my Instagram stories a little more consistent. But you don't have to. Instagram stories or Facebook stories, you could technically post these square ones and it totally works. But for me, I like to make it consistent and actually look like a story. And so circling back to the beginning, again, just like find whatever in your business fills your cup and do it. There was times that, people were like, social media at the time, even last year, was one of those things like, don't do it if you like don't have time, or, you're behind on parties, so don't do it, like cut it out. But for me, whenever I did that, I would realize like I would kind of get a little like bored with my business. And so for me, it's now not a question. Like I consistently do it because even if ultimately my parties aren't there, I'm seeing the return on doing social media. Did I see that originally in the beginning? No, I literally felt like I was talking to nobody at times, but I'm so glad that I like stuck with it. So the next thing, do it sustainably. Again, don't leave today and do all the things on social media because it won't last. I tried that in the beginning. Like I said, I was like, I'm going to create content today and post that same content today. That is so much. I have, even it actually says it right here, I have like 40 reels in my or 40 drafts in my TikTok right now. So I could like go on vacation for a whole month and still have 30 videos to post and not create a single additional one if I didn't want to. So I really like that, so that it takes off a little stress for me. Like if I'm having a bad day or a rough day, it's not like I need to go in the kitchen and film something if I don't want to. For me though, honestly, it usually puts me in a better mood. But again, it like allows me, like tomorrow, for example, I'm going to my brother's homecoming to see him before he goes. But I have to work from my mom's house because they live too far away from me to like go after work. So I won't be home. So there'll be no content created at all. But it's not a big deal because I already have stuff ready to go. And what I've gained from since I started doing this is a very loyal customer base. I feel like my messages, even when I'm not sending messages every day, I have a ton of messages to respond to just from the content that I'm creating, which is really cool. And I just want people to know me as me. Like that's my ultimate goal. Like I don't really care about the sales as much as I do like the connections that I'm making. Again, that's what I've learned fills my cup. So all of that is really awesome. I did a charcuterie workshop 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't tell you how many people have now sent me like charcuterie things of like, hey, I thought of you. And I just think that's really awesome. So I really love that piece. I do get extra sales monthly. I probably have, there's quite a few customers that will order, I'm not saying every live, but a couple times a month because I went live and shared something. And so I genuinely feel like if I didn't go live like I did, I wouldn't have those sales because, most people are not going to just like randomly order multiple times a month just because. New customers from new places. Again, it's allowed me like on Instagram to have conversations that I wouldn't have because they're not on Facebook. Same thing with TikTok. So I can't say, I'm getting thousands of dollars in sales of any means, but it has allowed me to get new customers in new places, which is always beneficial. And then again, pretty awesome interactions and parties with real content, because when you're creating all of this content, you can then cross share in your parties too. And so I would say I wasn't having total interaction until this week. I was like locked out of my Facebook account for some reason. I don't know why. Only for like a couple hours, but it kind of affected things. Anyway, I have fairly good interaction in parties. I don't really feel like it's a ghost town as much as some other people I have heard have said. And so I really think it goes back to almost all of my content is of me, versus, marketing imagery or something my director shared, which, totally works. But if you feel like, it's a ghost town in there, maybe try to create your own little things and see how that post does. Does it do any better? Does it not? Everyone knows Facebook can be weird sometimes. So just because it works for me, who knows if it will work for you? But again, that's kind of what I had found was when I started creating more of my own stuff, it really, really helped. And then a new love for my business. Again, I was kind of like down in the dumps a little bit last year and then a little bit earlier this year. And so I've now stayed very consistent with it. And so I really am like excited to like quote unquote come to work every day versus before where I was kind of just like going through the motions, doing all the things, but like not excited about it. And I think that totally comes through and you get less responses on things if you're not excited about things. So it's kind of like, what you manifest comes to you kind of thing, in my opinion. So again, I kind of started doing it because it was something I was passionate about. So I hope this helped some of you. And you can take a couple tips from it. So any questions?
We had one in the chat. It said, what types of messages are you putting in your customer connection emails?
Oh, okay. I try to focus on like the posts I did in that given week that makes the most sense, I guess. So like 2 weeks ago, I did like a whole bunch of recipes during the week, but the thing I focused on was like my turkey trot. I wanted to get people for that. So honestly, Luann, I know we're friends on Facebook, so you can see I literally just copied what I posted on Facebook about the turkey trot and put it in there. And just said like, instead of comment below, it was like send me a text or respond to my email. And then this week it was the Black Friday deals. And it actually, I wasn't sure if it was going to let me, but it let me put all 4 pictures in the email. So the words were really short. It was like basically order here. But the pictures help. I find people are really visual. They don't want to read. So I don't put like a long paragraph or anything like that. I tend to stick to like 8 lines tops. So that's not like specific wording, but yeah, having a call to action, I think helps. Whatever you want them to do, like order here or join my team or whatever, I have found has been helpful.
And then for the record, I use the motivation app too. And it just popped up when you were talking and it said, live for the moments that make you forget to take a selfie.
Oh, look at that. That's funny. Yeah. I love that app. That's
I do too. And it always comes up like when you're having like a bum moment, you like have a quote that pops up. It's pretty awesome. Guys, some more tips too that you probably saw is Baylee has, when she's posting, she uses the same font, same color scheme, like that kind of thing, so that when people come across her content on social media and are scrolling, they know like, oh, let me go back. That was Baylee, like without even reading it. And then you put, is it baking with Baylee?
Yes. Oh, I do put that on everything. And I honestly, it kind of happened, like, to be fully transparent, it happened because people were stealing my content from like random people that I didn't even really know. So I was like, I'm gonna put this on here. But I also think it like kind of creates a brand around things. So although I did it for that reason, again, I think it's really helpful for people to see like you made it versus, again, you're taking the time to do it. It's like an artist, they sign their name, you sign your name. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love it. But I think that's why it stands out to me is the color scheme, the fonts, like it kind of like, oh, I know who that is. So that's pretty awesome. Any other questions, guys?
Baylee, put it back on just a minute so we can take a look at it again.
Yeah. Sure. I actually just went out to my full Canva, but I can even show you like November social posts. They all kind of match a little bit. I sometimes change the background, but the fonts totally stay the same. I love this font. But yeah, I kind of use the same font and then always have this in here no matter like what the post is. So yeah, like Tiffany said, I think it helps. And I use the same things ultimately in stories that I use on my page. So I think that helps too, of like, oh, I saw it on stories, but I was clicking so fast, but here's the post that like goes along with it. So let me read it. Kind of thing. So yeah, the fonts basically stayed the same. The backgrounds change a little bit, but I tend to like lighter colors. I don't really ever use like super bright colors or super pastel colors. I kind of stay in the middle. But yeah, I was using like the same exact background every time, but like that was a little hard with like sales and stuff like that for it to look right. So I kind of stopped doing that. It was a bit much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think branding yourself is the biggest thing. Because then people want to buy from you instead of buying from the company, you know. And then the best part, like I tell them too, is that if they have had a bad experience with the company, like if you don't say the name of whatever it is, like you kind of keep it vague, then they'll reach out to you and you can build that relationship. So any questions or thoughts? I hope you guys were taking pictures of your screen and posting it on social saying, I have a training by Baylee. Why are you not joining our team so you can be on our team trainings? You have to think outside the box with social media. And so, but like, I guess if you put it up, you could take a picture of it. And so you could post it, but I did, and tag Baylee. So it shows, it like, tags her in all of the stories. Might as well make this time useful for social media.
Exactly.
Any questions, comments?
Any like Canva questions? Everyone always asks me how I remove the background. Like I get a lot of messages like that. And if you just go to edit image, it says background remover, and then it 95% of the time works. Sometimes if there's a lot going on in the background, it doesn't work. But most of the time it does. A lot of the pictures, like the first picture I put in the green dress was actually from conference, and it has a very ugly rug in the background. And so, you know, you wouldn't even know. So
you do that in Canva?
Yeah, I can share.
Can you show us how to do that then?
Yeah. So this picture, if I remove it, if I add it really quickly, can I add it back? It might not let me. Let me just add another one to make it easy. Okay, so I go to uploads and then upload. Again, not like a super busy picture. If I uploaded something like this, it would be weird. But this one, for example, I created this to do this and remove the background. So you just go to edit image and then background remover. Sometimes it takes a second. You have to have the pro version to do it, which is like $12 a month or something. But I find it worth it because it like makes it mine. So then you can just like move it around and like make it look natural for wherever you want it to be. So yeah, again, a lot of the times it does work. It doesn't really work. I think there's one on here. Oh yeah, so for like this guest special, I tried to do it and it like cuts off all like the words and stuff. So if there's a lot going on, it won't work. Usually a picture of you, it will. See, it like cuts off the words all weird. But most of the time, if it's just you, it will work. In this picture, I have like a weird pillow showing. So I just like slid it over so you don't see the pillow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is cool. That I've got to try. And you just edit in image, right?
Yeah, edit image.
And then background remover.
You can also, so for this presentation, I had done like some iPhone things. So let me go to it. Sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy. So this same way, if you just, this was just a picture that I added. If you go to edit image, you can actually put like an iPhone, you can make it into a laptop if you want. So that's something fairly new that I learned. The graphic designer at work showed me how to do it. I'm like, I love that. So the picture has to kind of be the right size. Like this was a screenshot from my phone, so it worked really well. Sometimes it like doesn't work, but I'm like, oh, that looks good. So that's like something kind of new that I learned to do. And then, like I said earlier, if you resize it, so like for these Instagram stories that I did. I did resize them to a Facebook post. So if you just go to resize at the top and then Facebook post, it will just pull up it on a Facebook sized thing. So you can just move things around, but all your content is here. You're just like resizing everything to make it, you know, a little bit bigger or whatever, but you're not having to like retype anything, copy and paste anything over. So I do that with like every single post because again, I feel like if I'm going to take the time to do it, I'm going to, you know, use it everywhere. So why not? So yeah, I feel like, you know, that already looks better. Like that's good enough to use ultimately. So yeah, I really like to use that resize feature. And this is also where, like I said, you could make it has to say 500, 500, and then Consultants Corner will let you upload it. So if you've tried to use that feature before and it didn't work, it said like it was too big. That's probably why. Again, I didn't know that. I asked the graphic designer at work, like, why isn't this working? And he was like, oh, it's too big. And I was like, okay. So if you change that to 500 and 500, it will actually upload for you.
Now you do that in Canva though, right? After you've uploaded the picture. Okay.
Yep.
That right there was earned a cost of admission. I learned something new. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, I was getting really frustrated because I was like, why did none of these pictures upload? And I'm just that person that like ask anyone a question. So I was like, hey, why doesn't this work? And that's what he told me. And ever since I changed that to 500, 500, it uploads. So don't tell me why, but, or don't ask me why.
And guys, if you don't use Canva, I use Canva for everything. We actually buy a year at a time. And yeah, I mean, we make everything with it. But I will say some things, like you have to watch your algorithm and watch your metrics on your like business page and everything. And we could have a whole training on insights and metrics. But you know, making sure sometimes it'll boost to people and then sometimes it won't, like it, and that's when you can see like pictures of her, probably like if she took that picture off of that November guest special, it probably won't push out to a lot of people, but because her face is on it, it will, because it's authentic. So, you know, pay attention to your post and see like, okay, why did this many people see this one, but not the other one? Like try to evaluate it and then you can duplicate it. And that's what she, you know, Baylee said she did, is like, I realized I get more responses with my face on it.
Yeah, and I actually started the last 7 days. Again, I don't entirely know what this means, but it's been telling me in my notifications, which, sorry, it's kind of difficult to pull these up, but I got this notification and it's like 7 days you've had increased visibility, like keep it going or something.
I've seen too, yeah.
So that's super cool. I'm like, well, it must be like what I'm doing is working. I don't know. I don't see it, but it's come up from my business page and my personal page. So I feel like, yeah, I'm probably doing something right. It like tells you like, just basically keep doing what you're doing. But I hadn't seen that before until like the last month or so. So that's why I'm not changing anything. I'm just doing it as I've been doing it.
So it looks like we have a Canva tutorial. That'll be another training for another night.
Yeah.
Canva is like a lot going on in Canva. I learn something new every time I look at it. So that's good. Any other questions or thoughts? I appreciate your time and putting the presentation together and everything. It was
I can share it with you too if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. I was like so honored when you messaged me about it. I was like, of course. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Look, Luann said you're the bomb.
I appreciate it.
And guys, go follow her on social media and watch Baylee. Like seriously, and if you're not Claudia, follow her and then like mimic what they like. Some things they do that you might get ideas like, oh, okay, Baylee just went live with this. Let me, you know, and she had a lot of views. Well, let me go in my kitchen and go live with it in a different way. Like it kind of gives, you know, you don't recreate the wheel. I mean, some of the stuff I come up with, like I've told you guys, I watch reels and I'm like, oh, I like that one. Let me redo it. Like, you know. But watching Baylee, and then you might see too, if you haven't followed Baylee, why I got her to talk to you guys tonight, because you'll see her like in real time, right? Like her posting and all of her things. So, yeah. All right. Well,
For
thank
sure.
you so
And
much.
Claudia and Tiffany were an inspiration to me on all this stuff. So I definitely copied them very much so in the beginning. So do that, because if you don't know, follow an expert that knows.
You're
For
so
sure.
funny.
So yeah.
And if
exactly.
you haven't planned to go to conference, you better plan to go to conference, because you get to meet everybody and everybody works together, and that's where I got to meet Baylee and several others, and I was awestruck. So
I appreciate that. I loved conference. That was so fun.
Luann was fangirling.
I actually can't go this year, but I'm going to Italy. with my family, and I could not
Well, that's
turn
understood.
it down. So
I go to Italy too.
My family was like, I was like, oh, I'll fly out of there and just go to Chicago, and they were like, you're not doing that, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. But I'm gonna do the virtual. Hopefully that's an option, but I definitely suggest everyone should go.
Yeah. Just the excitement, the interaction, just that alone, without even the education or any of that stuff, just light your fire to really learn something. And then you have people that show you the ways, and then you're your head's about to explode. Like Marie said this year, was like, I don't know what to do first. I'm going to do all the things. And so, but Baylee, I love that you repeated this, and I don't know if everyone called it, but repeatedly did she say, don't do all the things. Don't go off here and say you don't ever post, but once a week, and you're like, I'm gonna post every day. I'm gonna do a story every day. It's pick what's consistent. So if every day works for you, then good. If it doesn't, do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but just make sure it's consistently Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the algorithm will be happier and better for you. And so if you or say if you don't post regularly, just say I'm going to post something once a week to start, and then I make all mine like you do, Baylee, Saturday and Sunday for the whole week. And then I schedule them because I'm, so busy. I have to schedule them for my Instagram, my business page, as much as I can, PC Pirates even, because that way I know that the content's going to be out there. You know what I mean? So if you're busy and you're like, I cannot do all that. If you sit down, like she had, that designated time and just roll out some content, then you have all of that for the week, and you could just schedule it, or you could save it on your phone and then post one each day. But it makes it a lot easier and more, you can be more consistent with it. Yep. But I'm so proud of Baylee.
Oh, thank
Denise
you.
said you're very insightful. I definitely have to get better with social media. One
There you
step at a
go.
time, Denise.
Exactly. Because again, I was that person that, last year, I think Claudia did the training, and I was like, I'm gonna go out and copy her 100%. And then literally within a week and a half, I was like, I can't do this. So I stopped doing everything. So just build it in slowly. And again, it's been a year, so just keep doing it, and then you'll start to see results. If you post a TikTok for the first time tomorrow, you're not going to have 1,000 views on it. So just be consistent with whatever one thing. I would pick one thing. If you don't go live, maybe that's the thing. If you're don't post on stories, maybe that's the thing. But just pick one versus trying to post in all the places, because it's impossible. And now it feels like, honestly, to me, it doesn't feel like a big deal, but I've gone to that point over time. So learn from me. Don't get burnt out like I did, and then do nothing.
Yep. That's awesome. Thanks for your honesty, being transparent.
Of course. Too. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Right. Last choice. Any last questions, comments? Yeah, a lot of love in the chat.
No, I saved it. I'm gonna post on my wall. It's helpful.
You're so cool. Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are good to go then. I appreciate you. Thank you again.
Of course. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.